So Scottie Pippen had some choice words for Kevin Durant. And before we get into this video and get into the context of what he said about Kevin Durant, I first like to state that Scottie Pippen, the reason why you've been hearing his name this week, and you're going to be hearing his name next week as well, Scottie Pippen is selling a book. He's on a promotional tour. He's on a book tour. And that's why everybody's shoving mics into Scottie Pippen's face, okay? Scottie Pippen is selling a book, and he's selling his truth. He's selling his version of his truth about the Bulls dynasty. So that's the reason why you've been hearing Scottie Pippen for the past couple of weeks. But anywho, let's get into what Scottie Pippen said about KD. He said, quote, this is the reason why KD is not better than LeBron James. You can't even compare these two players. He said that in that final game, KD was matching shot for shot, and he didn't involve the others, right? And he also said, quote, he's still not on the same level as LeBron James, because he said, quote, LeBron James has won championships by himself. That is funny. That's very funny from Scottie Pippen. And like I said, he's trying to sell a book. He's trying to draw interest in his book. And that's fine. Do you. But let's address and attack a lot of the things that Scottie Pippen said. Before we get into it, this is my issue with comparing players or comparing generations when everyone was having these discussions. Oh, who is better, LeBron James or Michael Jordan? Oh, who is better, the LeBron James or Kevin Durant? None of these players are similar. They're all different. They do different things. They come from different eras with different rules. They played and matched up with other teams. Okay, it's not the same. It's not apples and oranges. Okay, well, it is apples and oranges. All right, I'm trying to say it's not apples to apples. It's oranges to oranges. Okay, what the hell I was thinking about. But anyway, I'm not gonna start over. So we're gonna just keep going. All right. So okay. So let's address what he said. Okay. The first thing, let's talk about Kevin Durant's performance when the Brooklyn Nets played alongside. When they played against the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, let's get some composure in here. Okay, so he talked about Kevin Durant didn't involve the others, and I don't know what Scottie Pippen was saying, and this just indicates to me Scottie Pippen is a selective basketball fan. He doesn't watch every game. He just only watch the games he perceives as probably going to be important games. I can tell from that criticism, that critique about Kevin Durant, he did not watch the whole series, and that's fine. Okay, okay, that's fine. He probably had other obligations, or he's just not a real basketball fan. He's not going to watch every single game, and that's cool. So he talked about how he didn't involve the others. When there were plenty of games, particularly in that series, he involved the others. And the stats showed he involved the others. When the others were knocking their shots down, he involved the others. Okay? He also did this with the Golden State Warriors. And they won 2 championships as a member of the Golden State Warriors. He involves the others. And he involved the others so much, he tried to involve the others in the final 2 games, and the others wasn't knocking their shots down. All right. Kevin Durant talent and his skill set is Kevin Durant really doesn't need, he's not an ISO player. He doesn't need the ball 24/7. He doesn't need it on every possession. Kevin Durant can play off the ball. All right. So he doesn't necessarily need the ball. in that particular series, he involved himself heavily more on the ball because he was getting the double teams and the triple teams. And when he saw that, he started kicking it out to the open players like the Greens and so forth, and they were knocking their shots down. If let's just say Kyrie Irving was not in that series, which he played two games in that series. Let's just say hypothetically he was injured throughout that whole entire series. Kevin Durant with a pretty healthy James Harden, and remember James Harden was coming back from groin injury, and he was less than a player, and he was just he was just less of a player. He couldn't do what he was typically normally was able to do when he was healthy. But let's just say hypothetically he came back from injury and he got like a 90% James Harden. With Kevin Durant, a 90% James Harden, and the players still did what they did, they would have won that series, hands down. But it was basically 1-on-5, okay? Particularly the last game of the series. That's the reason why they lost that game and ultimately lost that series, because no one else were hitting their shots. James Harden was still injured. No Kyrie Irving, okay? So when you deplete 60% of your roster, that's it. And that's why I always preface in saying this, even on my podcast, this is the death of the super teams. And this is the same problem KD was experiencing and having with the Brooklyn Nets against the Milwaukee Bucks, was the same problem LeBron James had with the Phoenix Suns. Okay? When you start trading away all your assets, when you start trading away all your talent, when you start trading away all your future, and you trade it all for one singular player, when that one singular player goes down, you get to see the real team, okay? That one player that you depend on, that you traded for, goes down. You see what happened to how the Phoenix Suns took care of business with the Los Angeles Lakers. You see how the Milwaukee Bucks took care of business with the Brooklyn Nets, okay? And as of right now, the Clippers, even though they're a two-man team, but they gave away so many assets, so many draft picks just to get Paul George. It's 2-1. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I feel like it's a foregone conclusion. Phoenix is probably going to win that series because they are a man down, okay? And that's why I feel like this is DOA for the super teams, okay? Now people are going to go into the offseason. They're not going to put all their eggs in one basket. They're just going to draft and sign better players around the talent that they currently have, such as a Trae Young, such as a Luka Doncic, okay? But let's get back into this discussion. So, that's the reason why Kevin Durant was matching shot for shot. It was Kevin Durant versus the Milwaukee Bucks because the other players wasn't knocking down their shots, right? Kevin Durant is a type of player that his skill set, he doesn't need the ball. He's not an ISO player. LeBron James is an ISO player. At the end of the day, at the height of LeBron James' prime, he was an ISO player that can facilitate. He needs the ball, okay? That's why it didn't really work out for them when he signed with the Miami Heat, because Dwayne Wade and LeBron James are sort of similar players with similar talents. They're ISO players. They need the ball. The reason why it worked in Miami later on was Dwayne Wade had to fall back. He came to the realization, okay, we're going to let this be LeBron's team. He's going to get the most touches instead of it's your night. Then later on, it's your night. This is your quarter. Then later on, that's going to be my quarter. We're just going to play off of LeBron James. And that's why they won 2 titles with Miami. Okay. Dwayne Wade sacrificed his touches because they were similar players. That's why they had issues when they played against the Dallas Mavericks. That's why the Dallas Mavericks beat them, okay? Because they was trying to keep both of them happy, keep Dwayne Wade and LeBron James happy, okay? Because they're ISO players. They're pretty much the same players, all right? And that's why I keep saying, why are you guys comparing LeBron James with Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan he needed the ball, but he can also he can also be around that court and do mid-range. He can do your threes. He can do threes. He does above 60%, well 80% on free throws. Okay. Michael Jordan can score other ways instead of using his athleticism. Instead of dunking, taking the ball to the hole. That's what and a lot of people seem to forget, Michael Jordan used to be that player like LeBron James. He used to heavily depend on his athleticism. But when it matters the most, a lot of people came up to Mike and said, yo, if you want to beat these other teams, you're going to have to perfect your craft. You're going to have to get better, do better, add other repertoires to your skill tree. And that's what Michael Jordan did over year after year. He just started getting better and better and better at other things. All right, LeBron James. This is no diss to LeBron James. I know a lot of people are going to say I'm dissing him, but LeBron James primarily heavily depended on his athleticism and for him to be a facilitator. Those are the two traits he heavily depended on. Okay, that's the reason why there was backlash between him and oh my God, not Phil Jackson. Okay, but he's in the front office for the Miami Heat. Pat Riley. That's why when Pat Riley was saying, when they lost that series, when they lost the finals to the Dallas Mavericks, Pat Riley was encouraging LeBron James to work with the Dream in the offseason to do his low post game, because he can pretty much back players to the basket, do a turnaround jumper, okay? And that's why LeBron James was saying, I really don't want to do that. But when he was feeling the pressure from others to encourage him to just do that, to add that repertoire to his skill tree, he finally went along and did it. Now, he half-heartedly did it, and he really doesn't utilize it, particularly now when he's a much older player. He should be able to take players, with his back to the basket, push players as close to the basket as he could get, and either, dunk on them, do a turnaround dunk, or do a fadeaway, or do a perimeter shot. He should, and he does that occasionally with the Los Angeles Lakers, but people don't give credit where credit due. If Pat Riley didn't pressure him into doing that, a prime LeBron James would have, if he would have just allowed LeBron James just to do whatever he wanted to do, LeBron James would not added that in his repertoire, okay? Because LeBron James was saying, no, I don't want to do that. That don't fit me. That's not going to work for me, okay? Because I can depend on my athleticism and be a facilitator, okay? But that's why I keep saying, why are you guys comparing these players? They're different players. LeBron James, Michael Jordan are totally two different players, just like LeBron James and Kevin Durant are two complete different players. Kevin Durant really doesn't need the ball to score efficiently with the ball. LeBron James needs the ball. He has to be the facilitator. There's a reason why he was playing point 2 years ago for the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay, and that's the reason why Dennis Schroeder was getting in his feelings when he got signed, when he got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers, when he said, quote, I'm not coming off the bench and I'm going to play the point, because he knew that what the games that they were getting ready to do, they was going to allow LeBron James to continue to play the point. Okay, but in a nutshell, they're two different players. All right. And what Scottie Pippen is asking Kevin Durant to do is something that, is pretty much taking him out of his realm. It pretty much takes him, it pretty much defuses him. All right. He can play without the ball. Kevin Durant can play without the ball. He wants Kevin Durant to not only take the ball, but all of a sudden, over like an overnight sensation, be more of a facilitator, and that's not in his DNA. That's not what the organization wants from Kevin Durant. All right. So, I'm sorry, I went on a long spiel right there. I apologize. But let's go. Okay, so Kevin Durant fired back at Scottie Pippen, and said, the great Scottie Pippen, isn't this the same Scottie Pippen that left the game because because Phil Jackson didn't want him to take the last shot? Isn't this the great Scottie Pippen? Isn't the same player that left the game because of migraines? Okay, and Scottie Pippen has flaws too, and before I get into Scottie Pippen, I want to acknowledge the fact that he was nominated one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. I think he should get a salute for that. But I still feel, and like others feel, Scottie Pippen wasn't he wasn't a superstar. If you want to title him a star, I can co-sign to that. But he was he was a above average player. And that's why Michael Jordan and others in the Bulls organization had the mindset of, we can find another Scottie Pippen, which is true. You can find another Scottie Pippen, but how many Michael Jordans you can find? How many LeBron James you can find? How many Kevin Durant you can find? How many Kobe Bean Bryant you can find? Not that many. They don't grow on trees, okay? But a Scottie Pippen grows on trees. You can find another Scottie Pippen, all right? They would have won 6 titles? If you want to have that discussion, we can have that discussion, okay? But the real discussion is, would they won championships? Yes, they would have won multiple championships with or without Scottie Pippen. When Jordan left, the Chicago Bulls were Scottie Pippen's team. Okay? All right. They even added Tony Kukoc. So the talent, he even got a better roster than what Michael Jordan had when Michael Jordan left and played baseball full time. He even had a better roster. He had Phil Jackson, he was getting better. Okay? They still played the triangle. They played to his strengths. With his talent set, he wanted to be a facilitator, okay? And he couldn't even get them past the New York Knicks. And the Chicago Bulls was a more talented team than the New York Knicks. The reason why the New York Knicks won that particular series is simple, because they just out-physicaled the Chicago Bulls, physically and mentally, all right? And it was mentally draining for Scottie Pippen. All right. And then that's why the migraine game and, him, taking himself out, because they chose Tony Kukoc over Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen was in his feelings and he went on the bench. He didn't want to be in the play if he wasn't going to be able to take the last shot. Okay. So Skip Bayless, here's something that Skip Bayless would do to LeBron James. He will call LeBron James the chosen one, the frozen one. Still to this day, LeBron James have won multiple championships, and he can't escape his past demons. He can't escape his past. When people congratulate the success of LeBron James, they immediately backhand him and talk about the series that he had with the Dallas Mavericks, how he became the frozen one. Okay, they started talking about when he was in Chicago and got beat by the Boston Celtics with Kevin Durant, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. They talked about how the owner accused him of quitting on the team. Okay, so a lot of the decision and a lot of things LeBron James have done in the past, and this stuff is like 10 years old. This stuff still reign even today. And then we're not even going to get into about a player messing around with his mother. But it's just stuff like that in his past people still bring up today. In 2021, people are bringing this stuff up today when they critique LeBron James, okay? That he's not mentally strong. He's mentally soft, okay? So, it's amazing how that resonates to people when they use that as ammo to kill LeBron James. But a lot of you guys, I know a lot of you guys are real young. You probably don't know Scottie Pippens past as a player. You only really know him as an analyst, okay? You do understand, that he played on the Bulls dynasty, but even the young cats of today say that was Michael Jordan's team. Okay, a lot of people don't really have a lot of clarity on Scottie Pippen, but there's a lot of times that Scottie Pippen has screwed up in the past. And, a lot of those demons still haunt him today. And it really hurts his credibility as a player. Now, as a announcer, as an analyst, that's like a different world. You don't really, what he did on the court, you don't really say, okay, well, that's, you start taking that stuff up and then talk about his critique of a certain player. I don't think you should, but some people do. But it's hard for Scottie Pippen to take this position. And like I said, I understand Scottie Pippen is selling a book, all right? He's selling a book. He's selling his version of the truth, particularly about the Bulls dynasty. His credibility really got burned on The Last Dance. People are going to gravitate to this book. He's going to make some money off this book. But at the end of the day, the damage is already done. The history is out there. People have already checked out the history. If even if The Last Dance got you reminiscing about the Bulls dynasty and you start going into the Bulls dynasty history, you're going to see all of this stuff unfold and unwind. Okay, you're going to see it with your own eyes. You're going to reach the same conclusion as millions of others have reached. Scottie Pippen was the greatest. They nominated him 50 greatest players of NBA history. I'm going to give him credit and props for that. But Scottie Pippen was not a superstar. Okay, if you want to say that he's a star, I can co-sign with that. But Scottie Pippen was an above average player, okay? And I made a video earlier talking about Scottie Pippen. I went through Scottie Pippen's bio in this run through. The bulk of his success came with the Chicago Bulls, okay? That's where people resonate from Scottie Pippen. People seem to forget Scottie Pippen when he had the Bulls all to himself, and he was having issues. He couldn't even get them into the finals by himself. Okay, people seem to forget that Scottie Pippen used to be a member of the Houston Rockets, and after one season, he wanted to get up out of there. All right, because Scottie Pippen felt like he could be Batman in Houston. But he was clearly a Robin, and there were two Robins on the Houston Rockets. Not only Charles Barkley, but Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen went to the Portland Trail Blazers. He was, his talent and his skill set fit perfectly with the talent that they had with the Portland Trail Blazers, okay? And look how that happened. All right. And then ultimately his final stop was with the Chicago Bulls. And then he retired from the NBA. But, I'm taking nothing off of Scottie Pippen. I think he's a great analyst for ESPN. But, this notion that, Scottie Pippen is a superstar, nah. He wasn't a superstar. If you want to consider him a star, I can co-sign to that. He was an above average player, okay? And I felt like the Chicago Bulls would have still won multiple championships with or without Scottie Pippen. Okay. And that's why Phil Jackson don't view Scottie Pippen the way Scottie Pippen views himself. That's why Michael Jordan don't view Scottie Pippen like Scottie Pippen feels about himself. The Bulls organization doesn't feel, I feel like Scottie Pippen, when he watched The Last Dance, I felt like Scottie Pippen took it from the outside looking in. Scottie Pippen did not like The Last Dance, but it told the story. Okay, and those that were there, such as me, uh, The Last Dance didn't change my opinion about Scottie Pippen because I always felt this way about Scottie Pippen. So, yeah, so that's what's going on. And like I said, Scottie Pippen is trying to sell a book. He's on a promotional tour, a book tour. And I feel like he's going to make a lot of money. He's going to draw a lot of eyes and attention to this book. But when it's all said and done, it's not going to change history. History is like concrete. It's there, dude. You're not going to change people's perspectives of you, and it is what it is. Guys, tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Deuces.